All the ins and outs and the ups and downs on Talk Radio. Let's talk movies as well then now. Plenty to get our teeth into this week. Lots going on, still being released. Not in the cinemas, obviously, but in on streaming platforms. The Five Bloods, You Don't Nomi, and King of Staten Island as well to get into with Van Connor, who is our film man now. Van, good morning. Shall we start with The Five Bloods?
The Five Bloods, yes, new film from iconic director Spike Lee. And of course, this past week, with events in the world being what they are, politically, socially, it seems probably the best time imaginable to have a new film from Spike Lee. And I think the timing for this could not be more critical. It's a film about a group of 4 Vietnam veterans in the present day who returned to Vietnam decades on to recover the body of one of their fallen comrades, but also to recover a stash of American gold that they've used to pay off, the US government used to pay off contacts in the region during the war, that they had found and stashed during their time there. And of course this brings with it certain issues such as what the gold will be used for, to be used for reparations for the treatment of black soldiers, etc. And of course their own internal squabbles that rear their heads along the way. I've got a clip for you.
Gentlemen, welcome back to Vietnam.
Look what I found. What a man in all his glory. Who was that guy? That brother was the best damn soldier that ever lived.
Boy, this could not be more prescient, could it, in its production, I suppose.
No, it really couldn't. And Spike Lee is not a director who's ever been known for holding back the throttle on his political stance or his opinion or his thoughts just generally on race in America in our time. And this is very much in step with his sentiments in Black Klansman a couple of years ago. And it's got a great cast. Chadwick Boseman is in this. You've got Delroy Lindo, Isaiah Whitlock, Clark Peters from most people know from The Wire as well. Paul Walter Hauser from Clint Eastwood's Richard Jewell this year is in there as well. It's a really, really solid film. I don't think it's quite one of his masterpiece ones. I think the trailer sells something a little wackier and pulpier and more surreal. I mean, from what we've just heard there, it sounds like a wackier film than what you get. But what you do actually get is a slightly overlong but actually rather brilliant and insightful character drama that has a decided political stance. It knows what it wants to say and it makes its points rather grandly. A brilliant performance, in particular from Delroy Lindo, as a very different role for him. This is a Vietnam vet who is also, he's an aged black man who is a Trump supporter, and they're not shy about that. They really go down there. There's a recurring motif with a Make America Great Again hat that comes up. And one of the things that I liked about it as well, aside from just a brilliant example once and for all of just the star power that Chadwick Boseman, the Black Panther himself, has, is this gimmick they use whereby it's set in the past but it's also set in the present day. There's a shift in the camera angles and the frame rate and the aspect ratio, etc. But also they use the older cast, no makeup, no CGI, nothing like that, to play themselves in the Vietnam era as well. So you get these aged men playing their own 20-year-old selves, and it's something that works surprisingly well. I thought it was a really brilliant film.
Oh wow, I like that. Nice bit of craft. Delroy Lindo is just superb. I've enjoyed him particularly in The Good Fight, which is very politically charged. Very much, it's the spin-off to The Good Wife, and it's based at a law firm, Chicago, an all-black law firm that takes on its first white partner in Diane, who's one of the central characters in The Good Wife, and it's fantastically politically charged, really immerses itself in the era that America finds itself in at the moment, and he's brilliant. And I'm sure he wouldn't want to necessarily sort of be defined for this and for these kind of roles, but boy, does he know how to play it. Does he know how to, be that character,
There is a lot of buzz around Lindo in particular. There's hype that he may get serious Oscar consideration for this. And to be really honest, having sat through this film, which, like I say, it's not a short film. This is 2.5 hours. And given that it's on Netflix, you do kind of feel that if they'd just gone a little bit longer with the runtime, you could have turned this into a proper event series. And I would have been all for that, because for me, the length of this just suggests, the length versus the quality of it, for me, does say I would have sat through more of this as a series rather than as a film. But it's a terrific film. Lindo is superb in it, and should he actually garner that awards buzz, I'll be all for that. I got to be honest.
I'm glad that you said that about because the trailer did sound like a bit of a sort of a wacky adventure, and what really interests me here, Van, is the relationship between these guys and what they have to say for themselves. You know, that is the bit that strikes me as being the most interesting potential from this film.
Absolutely. Like I say, with Spike Lee, it's always about the writing more than anything. Spike Lee is one of the, I mean, he walks the line very finely, I think, between writer and director. We think of him primarily as a director, but I think there's an argument as well that he's equally as strong a writer, politically as well. He goes for it in his scripts as well as in the concepts and his direction. It is all about that singular voice. Spike Lee is a voice unlike any other to me. I mean, especially when you look at something like BlacKkKlansman and what that had to say at that specific time. BlacKkKlansman was almost restrained versus what this has to say for itself. And I think that's more to do with the passage of time in the past 2 years and how things have moved along, for better or worse, as regards race in America. Like I say, they couldn't have predicted the timing on this, but the timing could not be more perfect for this film. This is a film that has something very important to say, and I think it is something that everybody should see.
Sometimes you don't pick the time picks you, doesn't it? This is another. So that's Netflix, isn't it? By the way, Van, straight to Netflix, that one.
Straight to Netflix. This is out on Friday. This is a Netflix release. I can't recommend highly enough that everyone sees this.
Top stuff. You Don't Know Me.
Well, that's the thing. We're all calling it You Don't Know Me, but the actual title refers to the central character from the 1995 cult classic. Now, it's important to use that term, cult classic, Showgirls, in which the character was named Nomi Malone, N-O-M-I.
Oh,
and now brace yourself, because here is a documentary you did not know you needed, Darryl. So this is a documentary from Jeffrey McHale. This is about the making of, the legacy of, and the reception to Showgirls, iconically directed by Paul Verhoeven, written by Joe Esterhazy. This was released, I don't know if you remember when Showgirls was released. It was hyped as the most sensational movie ever made. It was an R-rated movie that was released more widely, not an R-rated, an NC-17 rated movie, which is like an 18 in the UK, that was released more widely than any movie of that rating had ever, or I think still has ever, been released before. The movie, of course, is iconically known now as something of a massive dud, a travesty of a film that people have written off as one of the worst movies ever made. I've never particularly taken to it in that way because, for one thing, in the last 6 months, we've had cats existing. So we've seen that thrown more than a little usurped. This movie, just like, goes into that and analyzes it. It looks very much into what made Showgirls the film that it was. What is behind the view that we have on this film? Is it, as they say, a cult classic? Is it a complete piece of, for language reasons, rubbish? Or is it a masterpiece of brown substances? It's a film that, it challenges conceptions. I've got a clip for you that kind of just sets the tone of kind of how this documentary plays.
People are much more inclined to think that it's nearly criminal to portray sex. Sexuality is part of our life, and we should not be afraid of it.
I used to love Doggy Chow.
I used to love Doggy Chow, too.
You can't believe they're trying to sell us this. You never know what's going to become a cult film.
For those of us that get it, it can become our religion.
This is a role that does not come around that often.
It's weird having that protagonist as a character that's so cathartic.
I'm Nomi Malone.
Nice dress.
Thanks. Super safe.
And the worst picture of the decade is Showgirls.
I think the best line in there is, I can't believe they're trying to sell us this. This is brilliant. My abiding memory of Showgirls really is, because it was, mid-90s will it have been? And then not so long after that, Channel 5 launched, and I remember Channel 5, I think, buying it, and basically it was the time when Channel 5 was essentially soft porn and football in its early life, and I remember them playing this film on repeat. It was at sort of 11 p.m. every night. It was basically Showgirls. Check in for your nightly viewing of Showgirls.
Right, I'm just going to tell you the story. So my aunt used to work in a video store when I was growing up, and they used to get these things called preview tapes. They were like, they were the actual film, but they would come with a time code on. And the whole thing was that the staff of the video store would watch the film. They would write on a piece of paper that they would slot inside the VHS sleeve case their own ratings for the film. And of course, these tapes had to go somewhere when they were done with them. I wound up with an awful lot of these, and one of my very, very favourite ones when I was a total of 12 years old was Showgirls, and I like this film a lot more than most people do, and at least I thought I did until I saw this movie. There's a line in this movie, in this documentary, in which they show you that scene. You'll have heard it in that clip, in which they're talking about doggy chow, and I forget who it is that's commentating on that scene, who says the subtext is stunning right up until you realise there is no subtext, and I feel like that might be the defining statement on Showgirls. No one knows if Showgirls is meant to be awesome or if it's meant to be rubbish. And the only person in the world who could know that is Paul Verhoeven. His answer seems to change. You get different answers from Elizabeth Berkley, you get different answers from Kyle MacLachlan. Kyle MacLachlan, for instance, has said nobody involved in this film thought they were making anything other than a straight-up powerful drama. There are other people, though, who think they were making a satire. Joe Esterhurst, one of my favourite writers and author of one of my favourite books, the screenwriter is the devil. He seems to think that they were making a comedy. He's adamant that he and Paul Verhoeven were making a comedy. They poured through every line. They made sure it was as funny as it could possibly be. This documentary is so good that straight after watching it, I went on Amazon Prime and watched Showgirls again. Yeah. And I actually enjoyed it even more than I already did. It's a powerful documentary that I think has real insight and gravitas to add to an already, hotly debated film. Whether or not you like Showgirls, I think this documentary is something that you should see, because it will reframe how you see it, for better or worse.
And so does it? I guess it depends on how you watch it, but does it make a substantial conclusion, or is that left to you in many regards?
It does leave you to draw your own conclusions, but it does make the argument for either side of that debate, I think.
Okay. Interesting. Very, very interesting. What a fascinating case in point Showgirls is. It's so fascinating. King of Staten Island.
So The King of Staten Island, which is the latest film to be directed by and co-written by Judd Apatow, who has, found himself, seated as something of a kingmaker star maker, really, in recent years. He's the guy that has basically made the bones for Seth Rogen, for Kristen Wiig, for Amy Schumer, for Kumail Nanjiani, and this time it's Pete Davidson's turn. Now, Pete Davidson, obviously, to most of us, is known as Ariana Grande's ex-boyfriend. For, a few of us in this country, though, who know Saturday Night Live, he's a comedic powerhouse. He's one of the youngest cast members in the history of Saturday Night Live, and the first cast member they ever had to be born in the 1990s. And this is his story. Now, in reality, he also co-wrote this as well, with Apatow. In reality, his father died in 9/11. So what we've got here is a sort of semi-autobiographical dramedy in which he is Scott. He is this sort of reframed, fictionalized take on his own life. He plays Scott, named after his own father, a 24-year-old young man who grows up on Staten Island with his father died 17 years earlier in a fire. His younger sister is about to go off to college. His mum is played by Marissa Tomei. She's kind of tired of having to mommy coddle and look after this clearly traumatized son of hers. She wants to move on. She gets a boyfriend for the very first time, and he struggles to deal with that, all at the same time as he's struggling also to just find his place in the world. I've got a clip for you of him arguing with his younger sister, played by none other than a now grown-up Maud Apatow.
Okay, you don't get that crazy your whole life just because Dad died, okay? At least you got to know him.
Well, you're lucky you didn't get to know him, okay? Because that's why you're almost normal. If you got to know him, you would have known that he was, like, the coolest guy ever. And that would have ruined the rest of your life.
Okay, like, but what are you going to do? Are you going to get a job, or are you going to leave the house?
I don't know. I'm going to open that tattoo restaurant.
No, like, for real.
I am being real. It's never been done before. I looked it up. I Googled it. It's never been done, not even as a joke.
Because no one wants to go to a restaurant and watch people get tattooed while they eat. It's gross.
It's the best idea ever. Ruby Tattoosdays, where everyone's welcome. Chicken and tattoos.
Nice. Okay, this has a lot of potential. I'm slightly nervous about Judd Apatow because I feel like sometimes there are hits and misses for him. But this sounds really complex, really poignant, and like if it's done subtly, it will be standout brilliant. How does it play out?
I mean, for me, this absolutely delivers. Now, I will be honest, it's an overlong film. I think it's 2 hours and 17 minutes, I think this clock's in now, which puts it at 15 minutes longer than Trainwreck was. Now, I already thought Trainwreck was a little bit long, but I really enjoyed the hell out of it, and it made a star of Bill Hader for me. There's a dynamic that Judd Apatow seems to have with Saturday Night Live cast members that's just absolutely unbeatable, and this very much keeps that streak alive. There is a poignancy, as you say, to the writing. Obviously, this is a very personal story for Davidson, and how can it not be? He absolutely delivers here. I mean, my first takeaway from this was, wow, Pete Davidson can act. I mean, I know him as a comic performer. He's a sketch performer, but this is serious, dramatic, but also quite comedic acting. And he's surrounded by a hell of a cast that includes Bill Burr, which immediately elicits cheers from me, Pamela Adlon, Marissa Tomei, Maud Apatow, as I say, and the part that I loved more than anything, Steve Buscemi is in this, and that just gives me the widest smile imaginable, because Steve Buscemi himself has ties to firefighters in 9/11, having been a firefighter himself, and having actually gone back to work to help in the rubble of 9/11, and seeing him play this role, I will admit, I found very touching. It is slightly overlong, as I say, but with that poignancy, with the meaning, with the gravitas, with the humour of it, it more than delivers. This is a film that opens with, literally in its opening 90 seconds, includes a suicide attempt and a pointed conversation about the logic of the Purge series. So it kind of sets its grounds within those 90 seconds, and it delivers. There's a really great supporting role as well for Belle Powley, who I'm a huge fan of from things like Diary of a Teenage Girl, more recently The Newsroom. I think she's terrific in this as well. I think this is something that absolutely everyone should check out. If you're in the market for something not quite as broad an Apatow film as Knocked Up, or not his direction, but Bridesmaids, he produced that, Paul Feig directed. But if you're looking for something like that, I think this fits more alongside something like The Big Sick or Trainwreck, though. And in terms of him fashioning another comedic star out of another Saturday Night Live performer, I think this is another great effort. I thought this was absolutely superb. I laughed, I cried, I cheered. I thought this was absolutely terrific.
Great. And when you have sort of two people there, Pete and Steve, who are both very emotionally connected to one of the themes in the film, immediately you kind of you can potentially safely conclude that they're probably not going to make anything that's not brilliant, are they? They're not going to put their names to something that they don't think is good, that has a theme like that.
There is that as well. Like I say, I mean, although it's not quite as broad as the more concept-driven things like Knocked Up, for instance, there is something of a more traditional element in the relationship between Pete Davidson and his would-be, sort of pseudo-stepfather figure played by Bill Burr. I'm a huge Bill Burr fan anyway, and I think this is something where he doesn't quite get to unleash his nastier sensibilities. A bit more meaning, a bit more depth to this than Bill Burr really, a bit more drama than Bill Burr ever really gets to play. And there's a side of him that I'd never really seen before. But the relationship between them I thought was really touching and really fun and really sweet. But there's a lot of that in the film. It is all about those relationships. And Davidson more than rises to the occasion here.
Nice. Shout out for Belle Powley as well, by the way. Similarly, big fan of her work. She was really good in the morning show because it was a very difficult thing for her to play in the morning show. Because there's so many, I mean, Jennifer Aniston, Reese Witherspoon, you know, Steve Carell, some really big names in there. She had an all right part. It was kind of, but she was one of the standouts for me. You know, when you think actually you have really played that part very, very well and made an impression in amongst a very crowded field, which I think tells you a lot about her abilities.
Absolutely.
How are we getting that film then, Van? Where's that available?
So, of our 3 films this week, both you don't know me, so I've always pronounced that correctly every time, because I keep doing the you don't know me, and the name Nomi is dissected in that documentary. But You Don't Know Me and The King of Staten Island are both available on digital platforms from Friday, whereas The Five Bloods, that is Netflix.
Van the Man, always a pleasure, my friend. Thank you so much, buddy.
Till the next time, good sir.
Van Connor with us on Talk Radio this morning. Lovely stuff. Always a pleasure, never a chore.